Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racerx Exhaust Podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. I mentioned it last week. Now available is an all-new CRF 450R from Honda and an all-new Yoshimura RS12 exhaust system to go with it. There were a lot of hurdles to making the exhaust system for this bike work. Honda has an oval exhaust port, and then where the header turns from oval to round, there can be major power gains or losses if you don't get that right. So Yoshimura worked overtime to perfect the header on this. Also, the muffler and the overall exhaust system are extremely short on this bike. And, by the way, Honda went from the dual exhaust to the single. So they had to pack a lot of performance into a very small amount of space. It's very difficult to do, but Yoshimura had a head start. There's a Works edition of this bike coming. It already comes equipped with a Yoshimura exhaust. So they were developing some exhaust for that. And the actual Works bike that Tim Geiser rides in MXGP, now back in title contention, by the way, has a Yoshimura exhaust. The RS12 exhaust for the CRF 450R, it is different than the one that will be on the Works edition. I would assume it's also different than the one that Geiser has on his actual race bike, but the lessons learned for all of them lead to a superior product, and they're promising big gains in power. And as I learned last week, aftermarket exhaust systems are now quieter than stock exhaust systems because these need to pass sound test at the races. Very few people are running stock exhaust and running an AMA professional event in Supercross or Motocross, so they're usually not worried about that with their stock exhaust. So interesting. More power, less sound, looks awesome. RS12. Better together, the new bike and the exhaust system. Also, Racerx Online, we've got the Nationals box. Time's running out. To get this, you get a t-shirt, you get a Marty Smith cover poster, you get stickers, you get the official souvenir event program from Lucas Oil Pro Motocross this year, and, of course, a subscription to Racerx. You probably won't be able to get this stuff since there aren't as many Nationals this year. We've only visited 8 tracks. Yes, 8. Fooled you. We went to Loretta's twice. Crowds are limited. So if you're not getting the swag that you want by going to your favorite National, because they don't have crowds, you can get it via the Nationals box. Go to racerxonline.com/weege, and I want to make sure I get the credit. And I did have an actual Nationals box sent to my house just so I could experience, text from Mathis, hang on. So I can experience what the Nationals box unboxing is like, and it was cool. I opened the box, and it had good stuff in it. Don't you want it? Now, on to this week's show. I'm Jason Weigandt, by the way. The interview on this will be from a Monday night press conference. Only people in there were myself, Kellen from Racerx, Alex Gobert from Australia, Moto Online, and I think one other guy, I can't even remember. Anyway, limited amount of media attended, so I might as well give this to you in podcast form. Joey Savatgy, Justin Cooper, and Jo Shimoda. A real theme that developed for me in this is that these are 3 guys that are not getting the results that they would expect out of themselves. The Savatgy situation is pretty obvious. This guy was a front runner, a contender for most of his pro career. Switched to JGR this year because he got squeezed out at Kawasaki. They've got Adam Cianciarulo now. Can't really complain about that decision since he's absolutely in the hunt for this 450 title. As for Savatgy, he gets on JGR. He races in Paris. He races in New Zealand. Then he gets hurt in Australia. Really bad injury, as he will allude to here. And it has been struggle street coming back. And Savatgy does not hide from that in this interview. You'll hear the dude sound super bummed the way things are going. Justin Cooper, his situation, he's been a podium guy in almost every pro race he's ever been in, except for the last couple of Supercrosses. Mathis shut up with a text. In Utah, they didn't go his way. And these Nationals, he's been up and down. Certainly not the Justin Cooper that we're used to seeing. And then Shimoda is a rookie. And this is a really big topic that I've noticed here. So I had a discussion with a team manager from one of the 250 teams on Monday about how the 250 class is really weird how it's turned out age-wise. I'm actually going to pull up the numbers that he sent me. Yeah, here it is. Here are the point standings in the 250 Nationals this year. Dylan Ferrandis, 26 years old. Jeremy Martin, 28. RJ Hampshire, 24. Alex Martin, 30. Shane McElrath, 26. So the top 5 in points are 24. Hampshire is the youngest, and they average almost around 30. Then you got Justin Cooper. He's 6th. He's age 23. And then you finally get to one of the young guys, Jet Lawrence, who is 7th in points. Here's the point I'm going to make. We have a lot of young talent in the 250 class. You've got Shimoda, Mumford, Jet Lawrence, all on Geico Honda. You've got Styles Robertson and Jalik Swoll on Rockstar Husqvarna. Pierce Brown, Derek Drake over at the Troy Lee Designs Red Bull KTM team. A lot of guys are hurt over at Pro Circuit, so it barely counts. I mean, McAdoo's getting his first, I guess, full season on one full factory team the entire time, but he's a bit of a veteran of the game compared to those guys. The point I'm making is it's really hard. I kept thinking all year, when are one of these young guys going to catch on? When are they going to catch fire? Not Jet. Jet's in the hunt. Jet's looking fine. He's at podium material nearly every weekend. He's okay. But if you're Shimoda and you're Mumford, if you're Swoll, if you're Pierce Brown, if you're Derek Drake, Styles Robertson did just start after Loretta's, but he's on a factory team. If you're any of those guys, you're probably saying, man, this is tough. I'm battling hard, and I cannot even get into the top 10. I've literally heard those words from Carson Mumford, for example. He'll just ride as fast as he possibly can, and then he ends up, say, 13th, and then he's super bummed, super depressed. And I think the problem is we look at this with this standard of we have seen young guys come in and be super fast. I know Eli Tomac won the first race he was ever in this class. You name it. I mean, Justin Bogle came in and was almost winning races immediately. So, Justin Barcia was almost winning races immediately. Ryan Villopoto won the title in his very first full year in the class. So did Ricky Carmichael. So did James Stewart. It happens, man. So judging by those standards, these guys not being able to get top 10s, it's a little underwhelming until you start looking at who they're going against. This kind of perfect storm of how this class has aged. Ferrandis has been around forever. Spent a lot of time in Europe, of course. Had some years here where he was injured, so his 250 eligibility has remained. He is 26 years old. He's significantly older than Cian Cerullo, who's putting on a good run in the 450 class this year. And the Martin brothers, they've been around in this class for a long time. All these dudes would like to move to the 450 class. Shane McElrath would, but hard to find openings. And it's kind of all dovetailed into this exceptionally veteran 250 group. And I think that's making it a lot harder. If you look at Shimoda in the points right now, if I pull this up, he is 13th, but he's the third highest ranked teenager. You've got Jet Lawrence in 7th, and then his teammate Mumford is right ahead of him by 5 points. So Mumford and Shimoda, they are 12th and 13th in points. They probably feel like they're struggling big time. They're not in the top 10, but there are dudes that have been around a lot longer than them, ahead of them. So it's kind of weird how the class has turned out, and that leads to one of my questions here at the end of how do you even determine if you're doing a good job? Now, I can tell you, I'm talking to these kids on a weekly basis, they don't think they're doing awesome. They don't. They're not pumped on these performances. But it helps, I think, to step back a bit and say, okay, who do they have to beat? All right, Ryan Villopoto beat everyone in his first full year for this title. I don't think Jo Shimoda or Carson Mumford are quite Ryan Villopoto. They're not quite, top 5, 10 all-time guys. That doesn't mean they're terrible. And what you see could potentially happen here is an RJ Hampshire. Now Hampshire's third in points. Hampshire's taken a big step in his career. He's won motos. He's won overalls now this season. And a lot of it even coming back from injury. We don't know. He could have been really good in Supercross also. One of these guys is probably going to end up being where Hampshire is now 5 years from now. Just needed time to put all the pieces together. Not everyone has so much talent where they can win races at age 18. You know, Jet Lawrence is on the verge of that. He has talent, there's no doubt. But also there is talk about, remember, Jet Lawrence spent time in Europe. They have that EMX series over there where they get to ride the big tracks more frequently and on the actual race weekends where they run MXGP. So there's some seasoning there, same weekend, same track, long motos and things like that, points-paying series that some people think are benefiting Jet Lawrence. Yes, he has talent, but he's maybe racing-wise beyond his years compared to these guys. And if you go way back in the day, there was a process for this in the 125 days. This is not a two-stroke versus four-stroke thing. It's most really good amateurs, even when they graduated, they didn't even get factory rides. Yes, I know Robbie Rayner did, and Carmichael did, and Stewart did, and Kevin Windham did, but a lot of them didn't. Tim Ferry was great as an amateur, didn't have a factory ride. So he spent 3 years as a privateer kind of toiling and learning all these racing lessons out of the spotlight, didn't have pressure or expectations. And then when he did get the factory ride, which for him was Suzuki in 1995, he was ready. And I remember Tim won the Orlando Supercross, his first race for Suzuki. So he didn't have to worry about anyone saying, oh, he's a factory rider and he sucks. There was a built-in seasoning process. Now that there's so many kids coming out of the amateurs, you can't have 6 kids in 1 year all win at the pro level. It's not possible. So they're all struggling based on their standards, and I just think it's an interesting topic, and I'm going to be doing a lot more on this as the season unfolds because, again, 26 years old, 27 years old, 24 years old, 30 years old, 26 years old. That's your top 5 in points, everyone. So let's get to our press conference. Joey Savatgy, Justin Cooper, Jo Shimoda. This is hosted by Casey Huntley of Next Level Sports. That's the PR firm used by MX Sports, not Racerx. Not Racerx. I do not work for MX Sports. I work for Racerx. I do ask questions in the press conference, though, for this podcast. Here we go.
Joey, we'll go ahead and start with you. Finished 8th overall at Spring Creek, moved into the top 10 in points in the 450 class. You want to tell us a little bit about how your season's going and kind of how you feel heading into the final couple of rounds?
Yeah, I'd say season's definitely been subpar. Very far from what obviously the expectations are. Really just kind of struggling to figure things out. Had some decent rides. Unfortunately, results don't show. Obviously the second moto in Redbud, we were running third and then got into it with Marvin, went down. First moto at Redbud was going better, and then had a brake issue. And also this weekend at Millville, first moto was going better. Still not where we want to be, but better. And had another brake issue about 20 minutes in. So, and then got into it with Barsha, couldn't stop. So I hit the side of him and went down. And then overall, just Millville was tough this year. It was different than it's ever been. Very hard base. And then obviously being on a 450 with a lot of power, it's very tough to keep the forward drive going, or at least I struggled with it. So, going into the last 3, it's kind of just one of those deals where we're still trying to figure things out as we go, unfortunately. Both Redbud and Millville, I started the day off on suspension and settings that I've never ridden just because we're still trying to figure things out. And that's never really what we want. I don't like going into a race or practice or riding a motorcycle and not knowing what it's going to do or how it's going to react. So it's been tough. But, at the end of the day, I'm just happy to be back. And, the results aren't what I'd like, but, it beats sitting on the couch. And there's definitely times where I feel like I'd rather be sitting on the couch than seeing the performances that I've had. But like I said, overall, I'm happy to be back and building in a way. It might not look like it on paper, but we're figuring things out.
Awesome. Then we'll go ahead and move to Justin Cooper. Justin, you were 5th overall at Spring Creek. You're 6th in the points. Overall, I think that you're probably pretty happy with your day. You got a 3rd in that second moto. How has the season been going for you? And do you feel pretty good heading into Florida where you had some success last year?
Yeah, definitely feel good going into this weekend. It was good to get a podium at Millville. Just I haven't really found myself putting 2 good motos together, and this weekend I felt like I had the opportunity to do so, but I got a pretty bad arm pump in the first moto, so I faded pretty quick, which is quite embarrassing for me. So I was glad to rebound for the second moto. I really felt like I needed that, and it's been a struggle this year. It's definitely crazy to think that we have 3 rounds left. It's a pretty short season, but everyone feels like it still isn't that short of a season, but the way it's gone, it's blown right by. So definitely putting a lot of focus into these last 3, and I want to just keep striving for, those top spots. I want to be in the battle, and it was nice to be in the battle for the second moto for a little bit at least. So those guys are definitely pushing each other, and they're going for a championship. So that's what they got on their mind, and they showed with their intensity, I felt, in that second moto. So just gonna keep striving to be there with them, and you really can't slack. And I feel like this field is really, really deep, and if you're the guy that's not on their good day, like it's pretty obvious, and they get swallowed up. So a lot of depth in this class, and just it's good for the sport, and just want to keep striving to be my best, and come out up front.
And then we'll move it over to Gecko Honda's Jo Shimoda. Joe, you were 8th at Spring Creek, 13th in the standings right now. How do you feel your season's gone through the first 6 rounds in your rookie season?
I'm just struggling with the starts. I'll have 2 bad starts or 1 good start and bad on the other one. And I just want to for right now, my main goal is to get 2 really good starts, stay up in front, and fight with those top 5 speeds and finish top 10 in both models, and that'll be really good for me. But just haven't put everything together. So definitely last 3 rounds, I'm gonna put more effort and more focus a little harder on the start, and that's what I'm worried about right now.
Thanks, Joe. And then we'll go ahead and open it up for anyone that has any questions.
What?
Weege, go ahead.
Yeah, Jason from Racerx. I'll start with you, Joey. Going into outdoors, did you think you might have had an advantage because you didn't do Supercross and you were ahead, or were you still coming back from the injury? Because I think the injury you had was pretty gnarly. So what were your expectations going into Loretta's?
That's tough. I think obviously anytime someone lines up, they're optimistic. I feel like, the goal is always every weekend you line up, you want to win, whether that's feasible or not. You don't go to the gate with the mentality of, I'm looking to get top 10. It's, the goal is obviously always to win. And me being in the position where I've won races before, maybe not in the premier class, but, I've led laps in the premier class and I've won races in the lights class. It's hard not to have that mentality of, I can battle with these guys for wins and be on the podium. So what advantage I thought maybe we were going to have going in outdoor, obviously with coronavirus and having such a long time off, everyone got time to kind of test in between their hiatus. So any little bit of advantage that I thought we were going to have, was obviously out the window. And to be honest, man, it's just been a struggle. It's definitely haven't been where we would like to be. And I think we were a little bit blindsided coming into the season as far as being ready. We thought we were going to be pretty ready. And, as things have turned out, we were probably on the complete opposite side of ready. So, struggling, and it's not easy when you have guys who are on their A game and aren't struggling. And obviously switching from Cowie to Suzuki, it's another year and it's another new change. And, there's a lot of these guys have been on that bike previous years, so they have settings to go off of. And unfortunately, I don't. So like I said, it is what it is. I thought we were going to have a little bit of an advantage maybe. And then obviously as things turned out, it's been definitely no advantage. And the goal going into Loretta is realistically, if I could have left there at the top 5 to start the season, that was the goal. And it just hasn't happened. And, finally things at second Redbud started to click, and, had some issues that were out of my hands, and felt like I could have put 2 decent motos together there that would have got us close to the top 5. And then the same with this weekend, second moto, we made some suspension changes that were worse. But, first moto running 6th for a while by ourselves. And had, like I said, an issue that was out of my hands and caused the guys behind to catch up. And then, Sexton went down late in the moto. So realistically, I think we could have got fifth that first moto. And second moto is what it is. We just took a gamble, and because that's kind of our only option right now. We're trying to figure it out and get the wheels moving, and it didn't pay off. So the goal is always to win. And, it's hard to line up every weekend and tell yourself that when things haven't been going that well. But, I'm sure as anyone else knows, this game is very mental. So you have to tell yourself that, you're capable of doing it, and you got to look at the guys who are winning. And I know that I've beat the guys who are winning right now. And, I can do it again. It's just a matter of trying to get all the pieces to the puzzle together. And unfortunately, it's not that easy.
Take us through the injury, because that was a bad one. We heard it was the heel, I think, right? And then as soon as we hear that, we're like, oh, man, it could be 12 months. This was in Australia. What was the process? How bad was it, just the injury itself?
Yeah, so the injury was the heel and the scaphoid. And actually, I've had more pain with my scaphoid than my heel. We had an issue. I went into a false neutral and went through the bars and shattered my heel and broke my scaphoid. So I had, that was Saturday afternoon. I had surgery Sunday morning in Australia. They put some external fixtures in to keep the foot apart, so it just didn't crumble together because everything was shattered to the point where there was no structure. So they just basically went in there to keep the whole foot spread apart. That was on Sunday, and we flew out. Was it Thursday? We flew out Thursday. We found a medical doctor that I hired to fly with me back from Australia to make sure that we didn't run into any issues with health. Landed Thursday morning, met with Dr. Thorson out of LA, and met him at like noon on Thursday, and he came in and unwrapped my foot, looked at it, and looked at me and said, yeah, let's do it. And I was in surgery by like 3 that afternoon. So it's a crazy process, and honestly, it's been the most pain I've ever experienced in my life, and I wouldn't recommend it or wish it upon anyone. So it definitely wasn't fun. The heel, they always say, is never good, but honestly, like I feel good. Like health wise, I'm good. It's just, we're just trying to get things together. And like I said, it's not that easy.
When you first got on the Suzuki, so you had a little bit of time there, I guess you raced in Paris and then in Australia. You're still trying to figure out the right setting, but do you feel that it's there? Like you can be competitive if you do get it right with the time you have had on it? Yeah,
I mean, it's just, it's tough because we did go racing beforehand, but we really didn't have that much time. That's the biggest thing that I learned doing the overseas stuff, is that we were very, very unprepared. But with that being said, there's people who frown upon those races, but dude, I would do them again in a heartbeat, especially Paris. There's just so much racing. And it's good because the track gets speed up, and it kind of gets you a little bit kind of in the mentality of what it's going to be like during the season. Obviously, it's a lot different, but it's a lot of riding. And I do feel like we can be competitive. Obviously, we're running out of time, and on a shortened series is never good. But I think if we get things going in the right direction, we can be competitive. Obviously, taking the time off and being hurt is, I think, also a little bit of a factor, just taking so much time off, not being used to being at the races and battling. It's been an adjustment because I really haven't missed the whole season since I think 2014, I believe. I've missed some races, but the last time I missed an actual series was, I think, 2014 East Coast Supercross. So, I've kind of been there every year, and whether I'm 100% or not, I'm still there racing, so you never get rid of that. And then to take the amount of time off that I did, it's hard, but I do still believe in my ability that that I can win races. Like I just look at the guys who are up there now, and I've beat those guys before, and I might not beat them every time out, but we've battled plenty of times, and I've won plenty and I've lost plenty. So it's definitely tough. Because like I said, I've been there and I've won races and led laps. So to not be in that position to where we can do that has been tough. But I don't think it's impossible. I think we just need to figure things out sooner than later.
All right. Thanks.
And we'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Kellen.
Yeah, thank you. Kellen Brower here from Racerx. First question to Justin. You obviously had a bit of a struggle this year coming off the injury at the end of Supercross there, and it's been a bit of an uphill climb for you. So how rewarding was it in that second moto to get out front, lead some laps, and kind of feel that same feel that you had last year again?
But yeah, it's more of a relief than reward. That's where I expect to be. That's kind of where all the pressure that builds up on me that's where I need to be. So it's a relief. It's kind of a weight off the shoulders. And didn't really finish with those guys, but it was nice to lead the laps. And it kind of it was weird how comfortable I felt out front. It was almost like I was just waiting for the moment to happen. And it all felt comfortable to me until I was getting, a bunch of pressure from behind from those two. But it felt good. It felt like a relief to me. And it was just so cool how comfortable it felt for me. So I'm looking for more of that. My starts really haven't been as good as last year, at least. I think I hole shot it 7 times last year, and I'm only at 1 so far. So starts, haven't been too great, but they're coming around. I got 2 good starts at Millville, and just really got lost with the pace there. I really wasn't prepared for to run with those guys, I feel. So just gotta go with the flow next time and see if I can do it for that much longer. And those guys are definitely pushing, and they have the championship in mind, so they're pushing each other to that limit. And you could definitely see it in their riding. So more of a relief rather than a reward, kind of where I expect to be, and where I feel like I should be for the next 3 rounds.
I'm sure the injury maybe put you a little bit back in terms of getting prepared for your fitness wise, but how much did it maybe set you back in terms of testing, getting the bike setup dialed coming into the outdoors?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I obviously didn't do any testing because I didn't really get on the bike until like a week before the first Loretta's. So it wasn't even, I could have taken more time off. I just had to get back on the bike at some point to have any shot of even, racing or competing. So if I'm going to race, I'm going to do it right. And I had to get on the bike at some point. So played a little bit of catch up, but I think Ironman, I think I was at a good enough point to where my hand really wasn't bothering me and it really wasn't holding me back. So every race since Ironman has been fair game. And obviously I've been a little bit behind on the testing, which is, it's a struggle. I'm not the best test rider, so we're making a plan today on getting the bike better for this weekend. Looking back on some settings from last year that worked. So just doing everything that we can as a team to progress each weekend, and won the overall last year at this track coming up. So have good vibes going into this weekend, and really feel like I can excel at this track, and I'm a good sand rider. So excited for this weekend. I really want to go for the win, and if not, I really need to put 2 motos together. That's the most important thing to me right now. I've been kind of up and down, usually 1 bad moto and 1 good moto. I've been better in every second moto, which is kind of like the opposite of last year. So should be easy for the first moto for me, but it just hasn't gone that way so far.
Gotcha. And then a question for Joe. You obviously talked a little bit about your starts and them not working out too much for you, but your race pace during the races has been pretty good. Do you feel if you can get a start that you could run with that lead group for a while?
Yeah. Every time I practice, I'm okay till 25 minutes in, because before the season I crashed too. I didn't ride 2 weeks before the race. I just did 1 day, 1 30-minute moto before the race, and that was it. And I was a little bit kind of like, my body wasn't 100% to race. So still building, like, even if I'm 100% still building anyway, but I would say just 25 minutes. I think I can do it. But maybe if the temperature is cooler and like sand, it won't get, if it's get like a big roller so that I can jump. I don't know, maybe I can stay up with those guys for 35 minutes.
Cool. And then one last question for Joey. The track prep this weekend was not really ripped as deep. It seemed like they left it a little bit kind of fast and kind of more hard based. Do you like what they did with the track, and how much did that affect kind of what you're talking about with getting the bike set up for the weekend as well?
I mean, me personally, no, I don't, I wasn't a fan of it. I have noticed just with being, I don't know so much about if it's bike or what the deal is, but we do have a tendency to struggle a little bit more when it's hard packed. So for sure this weekend was not, wasn't in our favor. But, there's reasons, why it wasn't tilled deep from what I heard. They were afraid that if they tilled it deep and they got good water in it and they had a cold night, they didn't want to wake up in the morning and have to deal with a track that had frozen parts to it. So, it's one of those deals where you can't really blame track people, because at the end of the day, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, because if they tilled it deep and they put water on it, and it was 32 like it was the morning before, and parts of the track are frozen and the track's concrete hard because the dirt is frozen, then people are going to complain that the track's no good and they shouldn't have tilled it so deep and they shouldn't have had the water on there. So, they took the gamble and they didn't till it as deep, and, it wasn't as cold as it was the morning before. So it's one of those deals, man. It definitely was far from normal. And like I said, I think the slippery hard pack is not my favorite with my current setup. So it was a tough weekend. But like I said, it was a little hard to get a feeling for suspension just because I'm fighting so many other things as well. But we're not going to be dealing with that issue this weekend, and it's better.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Alex, go ahead. You're on mute, Alex.
Yeah, Alex Gober at motoonline.com. This one's for Joey, just to get started. What would you say has been the sort of absolute highlight for you so far this year? There's obviously, in terms of track position, there's been some times where, you're up front and, at least around the sort of top 5, top 6, then some good starts for the Suzukis as well. So is there any one thing that you can point toward and say, that was pretty solid for me?
Oh, man, I'm going to be honest, no. I mean, obviously, Redbud, we ran third for 6 laps, I believe. And we weren't too far out those guys in front of us. They were getting away a little bit, but, I was still on the same straightaway. They were exiting, or they were getting out of the sand rollers before the Redbud tabletop, and I was coming and I was starting the roller. So, we were still on the same straightaway. But I mean, obviously the starts have been good. We've had some really good starts. We've had some not so great starts, but I say we've had more good than bad. But I mean, honestly, for me, like I said earlier, I'm just happy to be back. As tough as it is and as miserable as it can be sometimes when things aren't going your way, I just have to think back at the end of November when I was laying in the hospital in Australia, and how much worse things can be. And it's tough to think that way, when racing's on your mind, and being a racer, all you're worried about is right now. So, I mean, the highlight obviously has been just being back racing. But if there was one particular race, I guess that if I've had a highlight, it's just that, second Redbud, second moto, we showed that, the speed still is there. Obviously we didn't go the distance and we had a fall, when I got into it with Marvin, but, it just shows that, hey, it's still there. It might not be there every weekend like I'd like, but I didn't forget how to ride, and I think I've shown that I didn't forget how to start either. So, I'm hoping by the end of the year or the end of the season, we can kind of get things pointed in the right direction and show up and, just be up there a little bit longer. If we're only up there for 6 laps at Redbud, maybe we can make it to 8 towards the end of the season, and 8 or 9, and, just keep striving to try to be better. And, that's all I can really do.
Is a rider in your position, are you sort of racing each weekend to cement your future in a way, or when do you expect that to sort of be finalized?
Yeah, I would say that. I'd say I'm racing for a future, absolutely, and not doing myself a lot of favors. It's obviously if I was doing really well and had good results, I think my future would be a lot more cemented than it is now. But it's just the cards I was dealt, and that's kind of what I got to deal with. So, as far as the future, I'm not. I was really stressed out about it for a while, and I've kind of just gotten to the point now where I'm not worried about it anymore. All I can do is show up on the weekends, try to get good starts, and ride the best that I can each time. And if that only puts us in 9th place or 7th place, it's a tough pill to swallow, but that's all we got. And if it gets better and we keep improving and we get closer to the top 5, then that's awesome. But future is unknown, and it's unfortunate because I do feel like I do bring a lot to the table, but it's what's meant to be is meant to be, and however it plays out, it's going to play out.
Cool, thanks. And this one's for Jo Shimoda. Having a rider like Jeremy Martin in Geico Honda, obviously a championship contender, a former champion, does a young rider like yourself get to learn much directly from him? Do you communicate much, or?
Yeah, like especially this weekend at Millville, his home track. He told me a little bit about bike setup or whatever. Kind of helped me out a little bit. We're almost gonna use the sand tire, which was wrong idea because it looks sandy, but it's actually a hard pack underneath. Not too much of riding like technique or like how to do starts or whatever, but yes, maybe set up and yeah, pretty much that's it.
And finally, for Justin, your future is obviously confirmed. Star Yamaha's got a couple of guys now that are either stepping up to 450 or going in that direction. So for you, do you expect from next year, to be the guy as far as the 250 team goes?
Yeah, I've already been told that, hey, you're going to be the guy next year, so you're going to have all the pressure. So, yeah, I'm going to have to adapt to that. And that's obviously who I want to be for the team. And, obviously I know I'm like, that's coming, but let's be honest, like I've had really fast teammates, and as I've, become a veteran in this 250 class, I've always had, my teammates doing, basically all the winning. So I've gotten a few wins here and there, but yeah, next year all eyes are gonna be on me for the team, I feel, and I'm gonna have to deliver. So that's the goal. That's what I'm preparing for, and I'm excited for it.
You obviously come into a team like this with high expectations, but is it a case of just building experience year on year? And, even though we know all along how fast you are and how capable you are, it obviously each year you gain more experience and I suppose in some ways confidence as well.
Yeah, it is definitely an experience thing. You do learn year in and year out, but the effort never changes. It's still all you got, and that's just how it works in the sport. It's never gonna be handed to you easy. It's very rare where a rider can just ride around at 80 or 90% and just dominate everyone. So it's learning, but it's also giving it everything you got each time out, and believing in yourself, and a lot of things go into it. It's a big team effort.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Weege, we'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, one more for you, Joey. So when you had this injury and then the season's not going your way, who do you rely on to pick you up? Is it family? Is it the trainers around you? I know that you're new to the team, so I don't know how well you know those guys. Who helps keep your head in the game when you're having a rough patch like the last, say, 10 months have been?
I mean, obviously, I think family first. My wife has been very helpful. She flew to Australia, basically picked me up and got me to California to get things fixed to begin with. So, she's been awesome. And, I think my number one fan, obviously my little girl, she's happy to see me no matter what place I get. So that's always, that always hits home for me. Like I know as bad as things have been and results haven't been there, and the future is so unknown. She doesn't know that. She just is happy to see me, and honestly, man, as I get older, that's everything. It's so awesome, and obviously my parents. My dad's been my mechanic since I was riding 3.5 years old, so he's been around the whole time, and we've definitely gone through some rough patches, but he's learned, and I would say he's gotten more professional as well as I have along the way of knowing when it's time to step in as just my mechanic to tell me to do the stuff, and when it's time to step in as a dad at the races, and kind of just just remind me that there's a lot of people that would kill to be in the position I'm in regardless of where we're at. So obviously Osho, he's been awesome. He's always very positive with things, even when it's hard to be. So between my family and my parents and Osho, I have a good group of people around me, and it's definitely been tough to keep positive, but it helps when you got people to push you along the way.
All right, thanks. I'm going to go to you, Justin. It's kind of worked out so well for you. Like from the moment you turned pro, you've been a podium guy almost immediately in Supercross and motocross. Could you see somewhere down the road that the experience this year where you've had results where you're not on the podium might actually help in some way? There's some lessons that you've taken out of this because it was all rolling your way so quickly. Is having a little downtime, can you learn from something like this?
Yeah, it's honestly like the first time in my career where it's kind of not came to me as easy, and it's definitely good for me. I don't think you want to be successful your whole career, but let's be honest, you're going to hit a rough patch at some point. And it's not really a rough patch for me. It's going good, but it's not actually where, I'm expected to be, which is, hard to, cope with a little bit, but I'm not really taking it that. I mean, I'm obviously out of the championship, so I don't have that much pressure. So each time out is going to be, what I have. And at the end of the day, that might be a fifth, that might be a win. We're going week in and week out, and we're trying our best, and we're trying to do everything we can to go out and be competitive. So at the end of the day, that's all we can do. And I'm feeling good on the bike. I'm making progress, and I'm not really worried about how I'm finishing right now. I feel like it's coming, and it is a shorter series, so I wish there was a full 12-round schedule. But hey, we got 3 more rounds to go out and try and fight for wins.
Yeah, and you said before, and you said today, you're maybe not the best tester. Are you learning things about that process too?
I'm really trying. I'm really working with my suspension guy to make progress there and to learn more about the bike, because we have quite a future together. So definitely trying to do my best and do my part. So they always complain when I come in, I said the bike sucks, but that's basically what I say, and it's not good for the team. They can't really go off that. So I've been working hard to learn more about the suspension side, and what I can do to help them fix the issue. And I feel like that's important for me to do right now. So been focusing on that, and trying to work with the team a little bit more there.
Okay. And finally, for you, Jo Shimoda, how do you set realistic goals? Like, if I look at the top of the 250 class this year, you've got Ferrandis, who's really a veteran, all top 5 guys. The Martin brothers are fairly old for the 250 class. Same thing with McElrath. Hampshire's been around a while. How do you set goals as a rookie of where you think you should be finishing? It's easy for everyone to say they want to win or podium, but what is good for you? How do you know?
First, like I said, finished 2 good moto, like finishing inside of top 10. And you always gonna want to get better. So my best finish is 6th for right now. So I'm looking for going in for top fives on last 3 rounds. I'm going to try hard for it.
So when you get the 6th or an 8th and some of the spots you've been in, do you actually pull in and are you satisfied with that? Or are you still like have that racer's mentality of if you're not up front, it's not good? How do you cope with all that?
No, I'm not really like happy with it. Like in amateur side, I was like trying to win every moto I go, but in pro, you got some like really fast guys that you don't even have the same lap time as them. So it's everybody gonna have a hard time to like grab speed. Like you can train so hard to get physical side, but the bike skill you need to have a little bit more time to learn. So, but I know I can do it. So it just takes a little bit of time for me.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.
We'll go ahead and take one more question from you, Kellen, and then wrap things up.
Yeah, I just had one question for Justin again. You talked a bit about the team telling you that you're going to move into that more leadership role next year. And maybe this isn't something that you guys even know yet at this point, but as this season is going to run later than it ever has, it's going to condense Supercross testing a little bit anyway. And now not knowing when Supercross may even start, do you guys even have a plan in place on time you're going to take off after the season and when you'll maybe get back into boot camp and testing and everything again?
Yeah, we always have. I mean, those guys are working towards next year already, so they're always a step ahead, and I think we have it figured out. It is going to be tight. We don't know what's going to happen yet with this quick turnaround, but the coronavirus still is very well in play, so it's going to be hard to run a regular Supercross season, I feel. So we don't know what's going to happen there yet, but we didn't know it was going to happen this year. So we're all going to, continue to put the work in and be ready. So other than that, it's just another waiting game, I feel. I think we'll go racing kind of around the same time as we did last year for Supercross, maybe not in all the same things, but just going to put in and work with the team. And I'm going to be prepared for next year.
Interesting there. Really the first rough patch that Justin Cooper has had in his career. I'm sure he would have liked to have won more races than he's won so far in his career, but for the most part, he's been really, really good every single time he's lined up. Those Utah Supercrosses and the beginning here of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, they haven't been up to his normal standards. He had a big crash right before Utah. I've seen video of it. It was nasty. I can't believe he wasn't legitimately injured, and it had to have slowed him in Utah. He said that he hurt his back and his lungs, and then it really affected his breathing at altitude. And he has just not been quite the same guy here outdoors. But we've seen a few podiums here and there to make you think it's coming. But it is interesting to hear him clearly articulate that the team has already said, Ferrandis is gone next year. He's moving up. Pressure's on you to be the guy. So we'll see how he responds to that. As for Savatgy, man, I don't know. I want to send this guy either some coffee or a stiff drink or something to uplift this guy's spirits. The one thing I like about all the riders these days, there was a significant time in this industry where you were in the media and everyone just wanted you to tell them how great they were, and if you dared say anything negative, they'd be super pissed. I really appreciate the honesty of these guys. I mean, here's Savatgy telling you things are not going to plan. He's not trying to sugarcoat it at all. He's not trying to say, hey, honestly, barely top 10, but it's a new year on a new motorcycle. I think that's actually pretty good. No, he's saying this is not even close to where he wants to be. Same thing with Cooper. He's admitting that it's not going the way that it has in previous years. And Shimoda even said, I don't come over the finish line jump happy, even though the goal is to get top 10. Even when I get top 10, I wouldn't say I'm happy. These guys aren't happy unless they're on the podium or winning or essentially are in that battle. So I just appreciate the riders becoming honest about it. These were topics that you could not dare go near. You're walking on eggshells with guys in the mid-2000s. They were all great all the time, awesome. And if they heard otherwise, oh, man, you were in big trouble. And then at the next race, someone would say, dude, I heard somebody's pissed at you. We could say Savatgy is struggling. I'm saying those words right now. Joey Savatgy is struggling. It's okay. He agrees. But I need the guy to perk up a little bit. We don't like hearing dudes being bummed like this. But at the same time, that's sports, right? Sports. There's a piece of paper at the end of the day, and your name's on a result sheet, and people are not always happy with it. I think we've all dealt with that at the motocross track. Am I right? I mean, I suck. I know what it's like to look at the posting board and not be happy with what I see. So that's our show. Thanks to Yoshimura. Check out that RS12 system if you've got one of those new Hondas, or if you're thinking of getting one, look at the exhaust. It looks so cool. You'd be like, man, I would like to have that on that. Maybe I'll spend the money. Think about it. Yoshimura-RD.com and racerxonline.com/Weege and get yourself the national subscription box. And I've decided to practice speaking like a baseball announcer where they take the S and pronounce S like this. So thanks for listening to the Racerx Exhaust Podcast. Thanks to Yoshimura. See you next week.